Hello everyone, my name is Tony Picciano. I'm the Chief Engineer for Nurtris. And what we're doing today is a training video on the all-new SX-4500 Pro total body system. And what this video consists of is the operational function on how to operate the machine and also the protocols on how to do the pad placements and use for the features of the machine. What we're going to start out with first right now is the operation. Basically everything from plugging it in, turning it on, to going over what every single one of these switches and functions are within the machine. Okay, so let me first start with the basics. Plugging the machine in. I'm going to turn the machine around real quick so we can all see how this works. Okay, this is the back of the machine. I'm going to let the camera zoom in on that so that we can show you what I'm talking about here. All right, now, the back of the machine right here, you'll see the power entry port. The power entry port of this machine uses a universal standard plug. The machine works with anything from 120 volts to 240 volts. It doesn't matter the voltage. You don't have to change any switches. All you would need to do is get the proper plug for your country. We're here in the US, so we're going to use the US standard plug. And it's real simple. I'm going to go over this because I get quite a few calls on this. These machines are brand new, so it's a little tight to get this plug in, so it's going to take sometimes a little bit of effort to plug it in. The plug goes in one way, and you can take a look at the way the plug is lined up with the entry port here on the machine. You put the cord in. Now notice I'm just putting it in and it's loose. Well, to do it, you really have to use some effort to push this in as hard as you can. You're not going to hurt the machine, but because it's new, it's going to take a little bit of strength. So I take this plug, push it in just like so. All right, now it's tight and it's in. If it's loose, you didn't push it in hard enough. So make sure that you do that, okay? You'll see a switch on top of the power entry port. This is your power switch. It's the master switch. There are two switches to turn the machine on. The master switch needs to be with the dash, or the number 1, in the on position in order for the machine to turn on. If it's on the 0, then the power switch on the top will not function. So what we're going to do is we're going to set it to turn the machine on. So we're going to put it on the number 1. Okay, now the machine is ready to power up. Now, we plugged in the machine and we turned the master switch on in the back, so the machine is ready. The next thing we're going to do is power the machine on. And there's a power button right here on the upper left corner of the machine. It says power. What you do is you hit the switch. In a few seconds, the computer boots up and it says on. And now the machine lights up. Now the machine is turned on, ready to set the switches for whatever protocol we are going to use on the machine. Now, this is the ultimate total body system. This machine combines all of our machines into one unit. Basically, it does facial sculpting and rejuvenation, body sculpting, toning, and muscle building. Two portions to the machine, or the machine has two separate functions. I'm going to go over each function one by one so I can show you how to set the parameters and the settings for each of the functions. So I'm going to start with the body portion of the machine, or setting the machine up to do a body treatment. Now, the body portion of the machine for inch loss and muscle building is right down in here in this section. Okay, the facial portion is right here. Okay. The machine does have the ability to do both treatments at the same time, but I'm going to go over that a little bit later in the video. If we are getting the machine arranged to do a body treatment, the switch that governs body and facial functionality is the switch that says micro and nano. Microcurrent is mostly used for body sculpting and toning, so we have the machine, the feature of the button saying micro. When it's green and says micro, that means the body portion is active. When you hit the button, it turns to nano and the face portion of the machine begins to become active. Did you see how that lit up right here when I hit the switch? I'm going to do it again. Right now, micro is the body portion. Nano activates the facial portion of the machine. For now, I'm going to show you the functionalities on how to make the adjustments for the body system. So we're going to put it back on micro for the body function. Now, there's a couple of things you want to check before you arrange or set up to do a body treatment. You want to make sure the machine is ready and set to start. Okay, and there's a couple things you want to do before you do that. You need to make sure your timer is properly set. You need to make sure the contraction status is properly set. You also want to make sure that you have the proper frequency or depth of the treatment set. So those are the main parameters you want to check before you start your body treatment. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to set the timer. Timer is important to learn how to set because the timer sets the session length time. You can have a session length time from 10, 15, 20 minutes to an hour or more if you choose to. You set the timer for that. Right now the timer, as you can see right here, it's set for 20-minute session. And the way we set the timer, we basically have a few buttons right on the front of the timer right here. And those buttons basically activate the digit that you want to change. For example, say I want to do a 30-minute treatment. It's set for 20 minutes. Well, it's very simple. We want to scroll to this digit right here, which is the 2. We want to change that to 3. If you notice, there's a arrow that scrolls to the left. Well, we need to get the cursor to the left to get to the 2. So I'm going to hit the left arrow until the 2 starts blinking so I can change it. So watch this. We're going to take this. I'm going to hit this arrow. 1. Can you see it blinking? 2. I need to get to the 2. 3. Now I hit it to where the 2 can be changed. And then I hit the up arrow. Well, as you see what happened? I waited too long and then it resets back to 0. So you kind of got to do it within a few seconds, otherwise it stops. So the left arrow, I'll hit it till I get to the 2 digit. And now I hit the up arrow to go up to the 3. And then I hit the red button and that locks it in. Now it's set for 30-minute session. You see how easy that was? I'm going to go back to the 20-minute to show you how you do that. So if I wanted to change it back to a 20-minute session, scroll to the left until we get the 3 to blink. The 3's blinking. Now the thing about this is you have to scroll all the way up. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2, and then bam, the red button locks it in. Now it's set back to a 20-minute session. So every time you turn the machine on or when the session finishes, it automatically defaults back to this setting. So it will always stay here until I rechange that setting. Okay, the timer's set. I'm going to do a 20-minute session. The next thing I want to look at is the contraction status. Now, we got 2 buttons here in the contraction status. The pulse off, or rest time, controls the length of time that there is no contraction or the muscles are at rest. The button on the right, pulse on, controls the contraction length time, or how long that contraction is constant or steady. The reason why there are 2 controls is because for different protocols. During each pulsing session, we can have the contraction length or the rest time length be varied for different protocols. For example, if I want more contractions per minute, I'm going to have less rest time and a longer contraction time. So that would give me more contractions per minute because I can set the contraction rest up to 6 seconds. I can set the contraction hold up to 6 seconds, okay, depending on the protocol. The more contractions you get per minute, it gives you more endurance. The shorter the amount of contractions you get per minute, it gives you more strength. So depending on the protocol, it depends on how you set this. There are different protocols. They're in the book. We'll have Patricia go over a few. But what I'm going to show you here is the universal setting, that protocol that pretty much covers everything from inch loss to muscle building and toning and tightening. It's kind of a starting setting that you're going to use in the beginning until you get used to using some of the more advanced protocol settings. But for now, until you have done quite a few sessions, you want to start with what I'm going to show you here, which is the average setting. It covers everything. And that setting is this. We set the rest time for 3 seconds, and we set the contraction length for 4 seconds. We're going to leave this here at this setting for most of your sessions. It's going to cover everything from inch loss to muscle building. If I wanted to do more muscle building and straightening, I might kick it up to a 5-second contraction length. You see how that works? It's going to be written in the book on how you set timings with this. But for the beginning, until you get very used to the machine, do mostly all of your clients from 3-second rest and a 4-second contraction. When you start getting used to working with the machine, you can play around and make more adjustments, trying some of the more advanced protocols. Okay? If I were to shorten the rest time, that would be more endurance or fat burning. You see how that works? So right now, we're covering pretty much the global spectrum of protocols with that setting. Okay? If I leave it there, I'm not going to have to touch it for a while. So I've already set my timer. I've set my contraction status. The next thing I'm going to want to do is set the frequency. Now what the frequency is the depth, or how deep the energy gets into the tissues of the muscle. We have 5 different settings on the machine. Okay? Right now, I've set it to the highest setting, which is 1500. Okay? That setting is superficial. Okay? The protocols that we have cover protocols and ranges from very superficial inch loss and cellulite reduction all the way to intense muscle building, which would be down in the lower band, 200. You see how that works? Okay? So the question would be, where do you start your client at? And I'm going to give you another universal setting that you're going to do pretty much for everybody that walks in the door in the beginning until you want to get more advanced with them. If you have a client that says, well, I really want to do mostly cellulite reduction today, I might keep it mostly at the 1000 setting during the treatment. If I have a client that says, well, I want a little bit of cellulite and I want a little bit of toning and tightening and muscle building, well, then I'm going to start the session at maybe 1000, and during the treatment, I'm going to kick it down to maybe 600 or 400. You see how that works? I'm going to show you. So we have our client that walks in, never had a treatment before. I'm going to start them at 1000 because it's a little bit more smoother for them, especially for your first-time customers. You want to start them there because then you don't want to give them any unusual. You want to make it as comfortable for them as possible for the first time until they get used to seeing how the machine works, right? I probably wouldn't bring someone in who hasn't done it and start them at 200. That's very intense, very deep. So what we'll do is when they first come in the door, I'm going to set the machine for 1000. The session could be about anywhere from a 20, 30 to a 45, 50-minute treatment, depending on how long you want to do the session for that client. So during the treatment, I'm going to start it at 1000, maybe for the first 5 or 10 minutes. After that passes by, I'm going to kick it down to 600. And after another 5 minutes or so passes by, I'm going to kick it down to 400. I might leave it at that during the session, or I may go down to 200 to really give them a challenging workout. Okay, so this is how it works. Sessions on the body system can be anywhere from 20 to 50 minutes, depending on how much your client wants to be able to be challenged. Okay, right now I'm going to leave it at 1000. So let's review. Timer set, contraction status is set, and the frequency or the depth of the contraction is also set. Now, the next thing I'm going to want to do is start to look at these. These are your channels, or the amplitude or the intensity of the contraction. This is the depth, this is the intensity settings for each channel. Okay? Now, before I'm getting ready to hook up my client, I want to make sure the machine is in the ready state. Here's the start-stop switch. When it's green, it means it's ready to start. That's in safe mode. That means it's okay to connect the leads to your client. You don't have to have the machine off to start connecting the pads on your client. You just want the start-stop switch in the start-ready state. When it's red, that means it's active. That means we do not want to be touching or plugging the cables in. We want to make sure it's green, ready to go. Okay? So now we know it's green, ready to go. And the next thing I'm going to look at is I want to make sure that all my channels are off. How do I know they're off? Well, very simple. If any of those lights are green, it's on. The machine won't function. It's a safety feature. So for example, if I accidentally had that at 100% and I had the client hooked up and I start the machine won't start because it won't let you give someone the full power initially. I'll show you. I hit the start button, what happens? Nothing happens. The contraction status is still off. Okay? The contraction status is off means it's not pulsing. Well, what's wrong with the machine? How come it's not pulsing? I turned it on. The timer's not counting. Very simple. You have a channel on. You have to make sure all the switches are off in order for the contraction to start. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it back off because I left that channel on. Okay, there it is. Now it's off. Now the machine is ready to start. I'm not going to start the machine yet because I haven't connected my client to the cables. There's no cables plugged in. That's the next thing I'm going to show you. Okay? All right. So now I know the machine is ready to go. I set everything. So now I'm going to hook up my client. I'm going to go over here to the accessories. I'm going to have the camera come over here and show you what all these items are. I put everything here on the table. Okay, these are the accessories that come with the machine. It comes with quite a few items. It comes with the body pads. We have two different kinds of pads that we connect the machine to the body to apply the current. We have these microfiber pads. They are washable and reusable. And the way they work is you just take it and you run it underneath the sink to get it wet, and then you wring it out like you're wringing out a sponge, and now it is damp enough for the treatment. These are the plates that go inside the pads. These are the conductive plates that transfer the energy from the machine to the pad. And the pad has a specific dielectric property, and what that means is it has a special resistance to allow for a more smooth delivery system of the signatures that we have in the machine. So once the pads are wet, I'm going to put the plates in here. And the way the plates go in, you have two sides to this pad. There's a conductive side and a non-conductive side. The microfiber side is the side, which is like the very fuzzy fiber side, that gets applied to the body. The nylon side is non-conductive. So if you feel that you have a channel not working, well, you put the pad on backwards. It doesn't go this way. It goes this way on the skin. Patricia's going to show you those protocols. The conductive plates go inside the pads. The way they go in, the snap side goes towards the nylon side. That's the back. So I'm going to put this in this way. And I'm going to make sure it's pushed all the way in, because when we don't want any part of the metal sticking out of the pad, because if it does touch the client, then it might give them a discomfort feeling. All the way in. There we go. Now the pad's ready to connect to the machine. That's one type of pad. We have another type of pad that's more of a disposable pad. And these pads, let me see if I have an open one here actually. No, well, I'll just have to open it. These are disposable pads. And they're pretty neat because they're very quick to apply, and they make setting up and hooking up your client very, very fast. It's very simple. They're self-adhesive. They have a self-adhesive sticky gel, conductive gel on the back of the pad, and it's very simple. You just take the pad and you apply it to the skin, voila, and it's ready to go. Patricia's going to show you how all that works when she hooks up, shows you the second portion of this video, which is the protocols. These are the body cables. Comes with 16, one for every channel. These are the body cables that connect to the machine, and these cables transfer the signal from the machine to the pads. It's very simple. Very simple how it works. Let me get back to the machine here and show you. You would take it, plug the cable in, make sure it's all the way in. The way I like to do it is I snap the cable onto the pads before I remove them from the plastic holder. 1, 2. Now I'm ready to take these pads and apply them to the skin. Very simple, very easy to use. Very quick, so it makes preparation a lot faster. And these are disposable. They're not very expensive, and we usually sell them in packs of 80. Another accessory that we have are the body straps. The body straps are used with the microfiber pads. The straps hold the pads in place because these microfiber pads are not self-adhesive, so they need to be adhered to the body or held on by something, and we use these straps. Again, Patricia's going to show you how all that works. All right, so I showed you, let's review, the body system accessories, which is the microfiber pads, the conductive plates, 16 cables, disposable self-adhesive pads, and the body straps. That composes the accessories for the body system. All right? Now, there is one more feature that I want to show you, which the machine has, which is a stop switch. Now, what this switch does, it plugs into the back of the machine. You'll see the port in the back. There's only one port in the back where it plugs into. And I don't know of any client I know that uses this. But what this does is that when you start the session of the machine, and you can see now that the machine is pulsing, the client would hold on to this switch if for some reason you leave the room and they want to stop the session. All they have to do is hit the red button, and the machine stops. Don't know too many salons that use this, but it is an option that is available if you need be. Just got to remember, once the machine stops, the only way to start it back up is turning everything off. You'd have to start the session all over again. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is basically show you some of the settings of the body system. Okay? I showed you the frequency or the depth of the contraction. Remember I talked about that these buttons here are the intensity of the contraction. And the way it works is once you have your client hooked up with either the microfiber pads or the self-adhesive pads, these are the channels that we're going to use that's going to adjust the intensity of the contraction. Okay? So for example, if you notice the machine, you'll see there's 2 frequency controllers for each group of 8. This group of 8 and that group of 8. Well, the reason why you have 2 groups, okay, is that you can have, say for example, multiple muscle groups at different frequencies. I may do the abdominal and go down to 400 on the contraction. So if I want that, this group 1 through 8 is controlled by this particular switch right here on the left. Okay? That means I'm going to hook up all my abdominal muscles that are related to the core, whether it's abdominal obliques and back, all on this group of 8. And then if your client wants to have also their triceps done, I might connect it to this group, 9 through 16, because the tricep muscle is not a large muscle like the abdominal core. So the tricep I might want to keep at 1,000 or 600. Okay, I might want to keep it at 600 because the tricep muscle, you don't need to go as deep as you would maybe with some of the abdominal core. So, and the reason why we separate the groups is because I can keep the abdominal at 400 contracting and the tricep at 600. So I'm going to plug the tricep cables on this side of the machine, right here. So now I have 2 muscle groups going on at the same time, abdominal and triceps. Patricia's going to show you that. One thing to remember is that I don't want the same muscle group all on mixing between the channels. Okay, I wouldn't cross them. In other words, I wouldn't start plugging cables in here and in here. So now I'm crossing both sides. Because if I do that and the frequencies are set differently, you might get a funny waver that could be kind of tickly to your client. You want to give them the best experience. So when you're doing this machine, try to focus all of your hookup on the group of 8 that's on the same muscle group. The same muscle group would be abdominal and obliques in this area. A different muscle group would be arms or maybe upper body, where the frequencies may not conflict with each other. Once you start getting the confliction, you might get a waver. If you do that, you want to make sure the frequencies are both set to the same, okay, to stop that effect. All right? So just something to remember of importance is that we do have 2 separate groups. And when you're doing this, it's best to keep any muscle groups that you're doing for that treatment on one group of 8 or the other, not to mix them both up. Okay, that's real important when you're setting the frequency or the depth, just the way we don't conflict those frequencies together. Okay, for now we're going to do this group of 8 when we do a lot of hookups. All right, now let me go over some safety features and some important things to remember with the machine. It does have some vents here on the side to keep the machine cool, so you just want to make sure you don't block these vents because that's the cooling feature of the machine. It wants to make sure it keeps everything cool in there so it doesn't overheat. Okay? All right, so another feature to remember is you want your client to be on a non-metallic surface. It's not best to do this while they're standing up with bare feet on a concrete floor, because what's going to happen is if you turn the machine on, it's going the frequencies are going to see the ground, and it might give them a discomfort feeling, and we don't want that. We want to isolate the ground from while they're doing this. So they want to be on a bed that's non-conductive. There's no metal on the bed. They're off the ground. It's very important, okay, that you do that. Also, you know, I've had a lot of clients do it on themselves, especially me. And if I'm doing this treatment on myself and I have the pads hooked up and I'm touching these knobs, well, then I could feel a little bit of a tingle because the knobs are grounded. So if I'm connected to the machine and I'm using it on myself, I might want to wear a little plastic glove so that I isolate the ground so I don't get that weird feeling when I'm doing the machine on myself. That's something to remember if you're using it on yourself and you start functioning the machine. Okay, that's another feature that you want to remember. Okay. All right. So I would imagine that pretty much concludes the functionality for the body portion. Again, this is a 2-part video. I'm just showing you the technical operation of the machine. Patricia is going to show you the second half, which is actual pad placements and protocols. Okay, so now we did the body portion. Remember I told you this is a multifunction machine. It also has the ability for facial sculpting. And that's the second portion, or this portion of the machine right here. So I'm going to show you now how to get the machine set up for a facial or doing a face treatment. Now, since we're not doing the facial, I'm going to take the cable out. You don't have to take the cables out during the treatment, but I'm going to do it for this one. Well, one thing I did want to mention on the body system too is that when you do place the pads on the body, it's best to try to keep them from touching each other during the treatment. Okay, try to separate them, and Patricia's going to show you so that they're not touching each other. It just makes for a better treatment, especially with the self-adhesive pads. When you place them on the body, you want to make sure that when the body contracts, that the pads are not going to touch each other. Because if they touch each other, it could short out that pad and make that channel not work as effectively. So you might get an uneven feeling. Very important to remember when you place these pads that they are not touching any of the other pad next to it. Okay? All right. Now, let's go over the facial portion, or set the machine up for the facial treatment. Remember I talked about this switch on the top. It's the micro nano switch. This is the switch that puts it in one or the other or both of the modes. If I hit the switch, the face system is now activated. You also can still do a body treatment, but this turns on the facial treatment. If you are not using the facial system, it's always best to leave it in body mode and leave this off. There's no reason to have that system operational if you're not using it. I'm turning it on, we're going to use it. Now, you notice it just lit up a few things on this panel that wasn't lit before. This is just an indicator switch. Even though it's a switch, it has another functions that can be added on later to the machine. But right now it's an indicator and just lets you know that the facial system is on. Also, this particular display lights up. What is this display? This is your biofeedback computer, a body impedance meter. What it does is it measures the skin impedance, because everybody has different types of skin, different densities, and different impedances. And I'm going to show you how this works when we set the treatment up, but it gives you an idea or a baseline to make sure that the current is penetrating into the skin while you're doing the face treatment, because a lot of times you don't feel the facial treatment because it's not contracting the face muscles. So you want to be able to have some kind of a monitoring system to make sure you're getting proper, the treatment is properly set right, or the treatment is working. All right, so now I went over this meter and this button. Here is your channeling selector. Again, the middle button selects the program. On the new SX-4500, you have 7 programs. We added a few new programs and changes to the facial system. And I'm going to go over that with you. Before you set your session, you want to set the program. And the way it works is you start from oxygen, program 1, and go all the way through program 7. Patricia's going to show you how that works. Oxygen is your first program. And what oxygenation does, it has special frequencies that help with oxygenation, kind of like what an LEDs and lasers do, to help bring more circulation to the tissues in order for them to be properly have an effect when we set up the rest of the programs. So we're setting the tissues up for a more healthy treatment. Okay, so what we're going to do is set this to oxygen and begin to do the treatment. Patricia's going to show you this, and we're going to begin to oxygenate all of the tissues and cells, which is a good thing. When we do that, it brings the nutrients in, which help build collagen and elastin and more. This sets the stage for the rest of the programs. The next program is Refine Nano. What Refine Nano is, these Refine programs do wrinkle refinement. They work on the superficial layers of the skin, and they're going to help with increasing more collagen and elastin naturally, and it's also going to build the building blocks that are missing underneath those tissues to minimize the look of wrinkles and give the skin a more healthier radiance look. Okay, so this is sending frequencies now to go a little bit deeper into the layers of the skin. Now the Pico program, what that does is, that's a little more superficial. We have 2 refinement programs, Nano and Pico. What Nano does, well, the first refine program goes deeper into the dermis. Pico is more towards the surface. Okay, and the reason why we have 2 different densities of the signatures is because everyone has different types of skin, and some might need a little bit more treatment or go a little more deeper than one other. You may or may not use both on on one client. It all depends on their skin density, or you can. But what it does is it affects a little bit deeper into the dermis layer, helping to minimize the looks of wrinkles at that level. So you have two levels of skin refinements for wrinkle reduction. Now, the next program's tone. What tone does, it goes a little bit deeper to give a nice structure to the skin on the face. And what it's going to do is tone and tighten and give an extreme radiance look to the skin. It's going to help with giving an improved color to the skin, and it's going to tone and tighten those cheeks, and it goes even deeper into the layers to help with circulation and also giving those cells more memory. Because what happens as we atrophy, the cells begin to lose its ability to recycle. And what happens is this particular program brings back that memory and activates cellular residence and giving that the cells of the tissues, more life. Back to we were before we began to reversing the aging process, basically. So that's what the tone's going to do. The tone works really, really good in giving that good, nice structure to the face or the neck. Now, we go into another bandwidth of energy here. These are your lifting programs. We have Derma Build and Derma Lift. These are your powerful lifting programs. We first start with Derma Build. Now, what Derma Build does, it goes very close to the surface, near the muscle tissues, to give that muscle memory and energy in a deeper level so we can start building and strengthening the tissues that when they begin to atrophy over time, we can bring back that lift and bring back strength and bring back more of a youthful tightening that we've had when we were younger. So, but the Derma Build works more towards this, closer to the surface of the muscle tissue. It prepares for the next lift program, Derma Lift. Derma Lift is your most powerful lifting program. It is going to give the extreme lift that your client's going to want to see immediately. Okay, with this program, you can get an eye lift, you can get a cheek lift, a nasolabial, you can even tone and tighten the neck. This works more towards, it works the whole level, but works mainly towards to affect the muscles of the face. Okay, the last program is your ion. It's called electromotive transdermal administration of product. It's a galvanic current, and it has a polarity charge, which is used for product penetration, iontophoresis, which helps for penetrating product. And we use a different set of probes for that, which Patricia is going to show you how that works. Product penetration is good if you have any charged products with the ion charge. This is the program you're going to use. Okay, so those are the 7 programs that are on the machine. Okay. All right, and Patricia's going to show you the settings, the recommended settings for each program. Okay. For example, when we set it for oxygen in the first program, we're going to turn both channels on, and we're going to may start at maybe 3%. So I'll set the machine for 3%. You want both channels on because with the pico probes, it's a multi-channel probing system, and each of these switches control current to these probes. So you're going to want both of them on when you're using especially the pico probes. If you're using any of the single modes, you can use any of the switches above the knobs here. For example, when you're using the middle banana jacks, that works off of channel 1. Okay, and also this works off of channel 1 on here. Channel 2 is right here. You just want to be in a habit, just keep them both on at the same time, and you'll be fine. But definitely have to have them both on when you're using the pico probes. I'm going to bring out this equipment here in a minute. Okay, so those are the programs, and that's basically for the facial functions. Now, if I were to say, I have a client here and only has 15 minutes, what can I do to get a quick lift? Well, your most powerful programs you have is Pico, Pico and Dermalift. Those are the two most powerful programs you have. With these two programs, in 10 or 15 minutes, you can get a quick wrinkle refinement and a super lift in 15 minutes, if you had to just do something very quick. I'm going to recommend Pico, Tone, and Dermalift are the three most programs you want to do if you want to do a quick 15-minute facial. Patricia's going to show you what that is and how that works. All right. Now, let me get out some of the accessories that work with this machine. These are the facial probes right here. So if I'm going to be doing a face treatment, I'm going to plug this in. And you noticed it says black probe and red probe. Well, the red probe I'm going to plug in to the red probe, and the black probe slot I'm going to plug into the black probe. Okay, it says red and black. Now, these are kind of unique probes. Now, these probes, if you notice, they have multiple prongs on each probe handle. You got 4 on the negative, and you got 4 on the positive. And the reason why we have 4 is because this machine, unlike any other machine, has multiple generators that supplies special unique frequencies or signatures of energy to each probe independently. Okay? So, which means when I'm doing a face treatment, I'm not getting more current, I'm just getting more of the treatment. So, in other words, one sweep of this multi-pronged probe system would equal 8 sweeps or 4 sweeps of any of the older single channel systems that are out on the market. So you're going to get much more treatment for you're going to save time and get a quicker effect. All right? So the way these probes work is very simple. I have the machine already on and set to oxygen at 5. The way this machine works, because with the way current travels, it travels towards the negative. It moves towards it. So when we're moving towards something, we want it towards the top, right? Because if we want to do a facelift, we want the negative on the top. Okay? So when we're doing this treatment, just try to keep the black probe on the top when you're doing one side of the face. Okay? Patricia's going to show you that. Very important. And very important that you have all 4 of each of the prongs on the skin. If you start lifting up one or the other, you're not getting the effect of that probe on the skin. So you're going to want to try to get as much of the surface of the probe on the skin during the treatment. Patricia's going to show you that. The other thing, too, that you want to remember is that these probes have dots right here. This is the red dot and this is the black dot. Okay? When you also have the option to take these probes and use it as a single probe mode, like around the eye. You want to make sure both dots are on the skin. You don't want it like this in reverse, where the dot's on the top and then one dot's on the bottom, because that's not going to work. Because the way these probes work is that this one communicates with this one communicates with this one with this one, and this one with this one. They don't communicate with the other guy. Okay, it's a unique proprietary system. We have a patent on this. This is how we can have all of these signatures going without affecting each other, because they are unique to that particular prong. I'm going to show you proof of that right now. Take a look at this body impedance meter. It's showing right now a number of 5. That's your baseline when we're doing oxygen. So when I'm doing the treatment, say for example, when you're doing it in single mode like this, say I lift the probes, we can do this, you want the red dot and the black dot towards the skin. When it's the other way around, they don't communicate with each other, okay? So you want to have them that way. And I'm going to show you proof of that. Take a look at the body impedance meter. When I short the red and the black dot together, it goes to 0. That means they communicate. If I take the probe, rotate it, guess what? They don't communicate. Very important. It's a proprietary patent we have that makes each of these channels unique, and therefore we can have multiple frequencies being emitted at one time without interfering. It's a patent. We're the only ones that have this technology. That's why this machine is so powerful. Okay? Another thing you want to remember when you are doing the treatment, just try to avoid touching the probes. You know, when you touch the two metal, it gives you no effect. It shorts out the signal. So when you do the treatment, just try to remember not to be touching the probes so you can give the most effective treatment to your client. Okay? Those are the pico probes. Again, channel 1 and channel 2 must be on in order for you to get the maximum program effect. Okay? I have channel 1 to 3 and channel 4 to 3%. Well, that's at least for oxygenation. Patricia's going to show you how they all work. Now, another thing to remember, a lot of times I see this all the time. You know, take these probes, when you set them down or unplug them so that they're not on top of each other or shorting out on a metal surface. Because if you do that, look what happens. That they short out and the machine is not working. So you can't set these down on top of each other. So it's probably either best to make sure they are on a non-conductive surface, not shorting out, or just unplug them when you're using some of the other features, okay? Because you don't want them shorting out. And then just, everyone calls and tells me this. I get the phone calls, well, how come my machine's showing 0? It's not working. Well, that's because your probes are on a metal surface and you're shorting out. Oh, okay. Please remember that. I would just take them and unplug them if you're not using them, or just get into the habit of just making sure it's not on a surface where it'll short out. Another feature that the machine has is single probes. Single probes can be used for a lot of different things. Now, very simple. They plug into the red banana jack and the black banana jack on the top. This works off of channel 1. Okay, it's a single. These probes are pretty neat. You may, again, these also unscrew, so you can rotate the tips into the positive or the negative depending on what you are doing. Now, say for example, I'm going to do, you know, an eye treatment. You know, I'm going to use the probes. You know, they work great around the eyes or even on the lips. Patricia's going to show you how that works. Another good use for these probes is for the product penetration. When you're doing the product penetration, I'm going to switch it to the ion program, and I'm going to set it to the proper setting. It's probably 30% to start, is a good starting point for this program. Your client is going to hold the negative. Okay, if they're going to hold the negative, in that case, I'm going to rotate these tips. So what I'm going to do is take these tips and rotate them because I want the positive tip for the penetrating the product. Your client would hold, if I'm going to do the right side of the face, they're going to hold it on their left hand, and we're going to take this probe. We have our machine set for ion, and we're going to move and penetrate the product into the skin, like so. Patricia's going to show you that. Now, one thing I did want to mention is this biofeedback meter. It's a very unique system, really, because this particular meter is really meant to be used on the nano, pico, and tone programs, okay? Because those programs are super sensitive to the signatures on the skin, and we want to be able to monitor that. You're going to notice that when you start switching to the build programs, the meter doesn't really work for those programs. That's a signature that this particular device doesn't pick up, and we don't need it for those programs. So you're not going to use this meter for the build, the lift, or the ion programs. Okay, so it's not used. It's just going to show 0. So don't think it's not working when you get to those programs. Okay, again, derma build, derma lift, and the ion do not use, and this meter will not function with those 3 programs. Just so you know. All right. So those are the single probes. Now I'm going to show you another feature that's new to this machine is the facial pads. Facial pads are pretty neat. Patricia's going to show you that. Very simple. You can plug into any of the channels, channel 1 or channel 2. And if you notice, the facial pads are going to have, it's a quad cable, and you can connect up to 4 pads onto the face. It's really neat because you can place the pads to work on some people's problems areas. They may have a certain area. Well, so I want my neck a little bit more, I want my eye lifted. Well, I'm going to place the pads on the neck, snap them on or plug them in. I think the new machine, your new machine is going to be coming with the new style cable which they actually plug in. These are the prototype cables just for the purpose of showing you this video that it is a quad cable. You're going to take it, connect the cable to the pads, and you're going to place them at meridian points on the skin, which Patricia is going to show you. And this will treat areas while you're using the probe. So for example, you can have the face pads connected onto the neck or any portion of the face while you're using the probes on the other side. So you kind of can do a little bit more treatment for that client. Okay, pretty neat. You got 2 of these cables. You can have up to 8 pads on the face. Now, another facial sculpting delivery system we have are conductive gloves. These are patented and they are FDA approved gloves. They are custom designed and built for our machine. These gloves have silver conductive threads, and it's woven within this material very meticulously to give the proper dielectric properties so they work most effectively. These are the best gloves you're going to find on the market. Okay, nothing is better than this. They're durable, they last forever. Okay, these are great gloves. You just wash them in Woolite, let them air dry, and they're good to go. Now, the way these gloves work is that you plug them into any of the channels. We'll just use channel 1. And then we have these glove inserts. What we do is we're using the inserts because me as the esthetician, I don't want to give myself a hand treatment. So this is like an insulator that I use before I put the gloves on. So I'll take the gloves, I will put the glove on, here we go. Put the gloves on, make sure the insulator's on and the glove, no part of the glove's touching my hand because I don't want to get a treatment right now. Put the other insert on. So this insulates the glove for me. Me doing the treatment, again, I want to protect myself from getting any of the current onto me because then it would take away treatment from my client. So I make sure that no part. Okay, it's a little small for my hand, but I think you get the idea. We have different sizes. Snap on the negative, snap on the positive. Again, you want to be in the habit of keeping negative on the top, right? And these are sculpting gloves. Patricia's going to show you how they work with the programs. But you can take this and you can sculpt the neck, the eyes, the nasolabial. You can do so much. They work great on the neck because you can get so much more surface conduction, okay, with these gloves. And you're going to notice the impedance meter with the gloves because they are extremely highly conductive. Since they're so conductive, you can see the body impedance meter. So again, when you're doing the treatment, you don't want to touch the gloves together. What happens? The meter goes to 0. That means that the client's not getting the treatment. So be careful when you're working the treatment. So try to avoid touching with the gloves. And you can see when I put it on the skin, the body impedance meter moves. So, of course, with the proper sprays, the gloves are not quite prepared yet. But to prepare them, what we do is we put the gloves under, again, the sink. We completely wring them out like we do with a sponge. And then we have a special ion spray that we use to wet the gloves. Patricia's going to show you that. This helps with more conductivity. You put about 15 squirts on each hand of the glove, and now you're ready to do your treatment on the client. And you'll show that you know you're going to be getting a conduction. Because right now, I'm really not getting any penetration into the skin. Take a look at this meter. All right, I'm not getting any penetration. Why is the current not transferring to the skin? Oh my goodness, they're dry. So once I start spraying these gloves, okay, once I wring them in the sink and they are wet, all I got to do is use a few squirts of this spray, and now look at that, bam. You can see the body impedance meter is working now. Okay, so I'll take that and go like this. So you can see it drop a few points. That means that you are getting the treatment. Okay, so I can take this anywhere on my skin and do the treatment. There we go. Now I feel it. So my baseline was 17, and now it's dropping down to about 10 or 12. So you see, they have to be wet to work, and that's exactly how you use the meter. Okay, you notice they were dry, the meter didn't move, and I wasn't getting enough penetration of the signal. Now that I wet the gloves, I'm getting a nice penetration. Okay, and that's exactly how you use the meter. All right, Patricia's going to show you how the gloves work. I'm not going to do that. Again, I see a lot of people leaving these gloves on, and I see this all the time. They take these gloves off, the machine's still on. They take these gloves off. This is not what I want to see you do at all. You take these gloves, and what do? They take them, and they go bam. What happened to the impedance meter? What happened? It went to 0. Oh my goodness. And then they take these and they start plugging in these other probes into this port, and they start doing a treatment. They call me up and say, my machine isn't working. Well, you can't set the gloves on top of each other or on a metal surface. Watch. Take the gloves and I separate them, and voila, the body impedance works. That's a good reason to have this meter, is to show, because I can't feel anything, with it. So you have to see what's going on. Another thing is, if you can't get into the habit of placing them on a non-conductive surface, just unplug it, and then you can start doing another treatment. Very important to kind of get used to that meter. That concludes the technical portion and operation of the SX-4500 Pro total body system. And now what I'm going to do at this point is bring Patricia in, and Patricia is going to show you the protocols on how to place the pads. We have a model here, Jennifer. She's very kind today to be here to actually be a model, so we can show you real true, real time, real live protocols and placements, okay? So I'm going to turn you over to Patricia at this time. And if you have any questions, feel free to call Patricia, and she can walk you through any of the things that, if you have any questions on. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Patricia, and I am the Director of Sales and Training. And I am here to show you the protocols for the SX-4500 body and facial system. First, I'm going to start with the body system protocols. And I'm going to start simple, and then I'm going to do advanced so you can challenge your clients. So first, I'm going to show you the features of the machine. I'm going to turn the machine on for power. I already set my timer for 20 minutes, and that's how long the session for training will be. And a good session for a treatment is 20 to 50 minutes. I have my contraction status. I have a 3-second rest period and a contraction time of 4 seconds. My frequency, I'm going to start out to 1,000. That is a superficial, how deep it goes in the muscle, so it's more superficial. And it's a good place to start is for lymphatic drainage and inch loss. And I like to get down deeper until I get a really good contraction, which I will show you as I go on. It's also important that all your channels are off before you start the machine. And I mean off, they're not on, they're totally off, not lit up. because that is a safety feature of this machine. So that's important, and it won't operate if these are on anyway when you start the machine. So that's an important thing to remember. And this contraction status, well, I will actually show you that as I go on as well. So I'm ready to start the first abdominal protocol. Jennifer, would you like to come over? Now I'm going to do a simple hookup on Jennifer, her abdomen. So I'm going to have her lie down. I got the straps here already, and this is a good way you can do. It's a real simple way to get them hooked up. And for the simple abdominal hookup, I'm going to put one strap, and these are Velcro, above the umbilicus, and the other strap below the umbilicus. I'm using the microfiber reusable pads, and I already wet them and put the plates in, but I want to show you exactly how to put these plates in. This is the nylon side, and this is the microfiber, and this is the conducting side, which goes towards the body, on the body. The plate goes in like this, and the nylon, the snap will go towards the nylon side of the pad. Make sure the plates are all the way intact. You don't want any of them touching the skin. So like I said, my pads are all wet, and I'm going to start hooking the pads up now. Just to show you, I actually have the cables already placed in here, but I'll show you how easy they are to be put in. Just make sure they're all the way in and not coming out at all. You want to make sure they're all the way in as far as they can go. Another important feature to remember is you want to make sure you know exactly where you place your pads. So channel 1 is going to be my first placement. So you want to remember that in case you have any issue with any of the placements, that you know where to go. And again, like here's the snap. I'm going to show you how easy it is to snap this cable onto this plate and make sure it's all the way in. And we can start. That's positive. Positive will go lower. The negative will go on top, because positive always pulls towards the negative. So you're getting that upward lift. We don't want anything to go downward because, well, gravity already did that. So we want to So I'm going to keep placing these pads. Negative on top, positive on the bottom. Remember, this is the side, the conducting side, that goes onto the skin. I'm also going to be doing the obliques on this hookup. This is a very simple hookup, and it's great for people who never had a treatment, or it's good for toning, inch loss. It's a good starter protocol. Okay, so I see that I have no plates touching the skin. They're all the way into the pad. And if you ever have to fix the straps just because it got loosened, you just easily just Go like that and fix it, and you can move the pads as well. So she's ready to go. She's ready to start the treatment. Okay, now I'm ready to start the simple abdominal protocol. First, I want to review that I have everything. I got my timer set for 20 minutes, exactly what I want because I'm doing a training. And I have my contraction status. I have a 3-second rest period, a 4-second contraction. I have my frequency at 1,000, that's where I'm starting, and that's how deep it goes into the muscle. All my channels are off, which is where I want it to be right now. And I'm going to hit the start and start the treatment. So everything is exactly what I want. As soon as I hit start, the clock starts going down. The treatment will begin. I'm going to start at 5% increments. So I turn everything just on 0 right away. All my channels that I have on 0. And then I started going on to 5%. And you want to make sure you tell your client what they're going to feel. Generally, in the first part of the treatment, you're going to feel like a tickling feeling. It won't be even all over. That's all normal. Till you get up to about 11 to 15%, that's when all the contractions start evening out, and they feel it everywhere. I'm going up another 5%. Okay, I want to turn the frequency. I want to decrease the frequency to 600. It's going to go deeper into the muscle. She's at 15% now. And the important thing I want you to remember is when you turn the frequency, you want to make sure your contraction status is off, just because they won't get that little feeling that they can feel if you don't wait for that to be off. So I now have her at 600, the frequency at 600. And I'm going to turn her up another 5%. Remember, my goal is to start at 1,000 and get down to 400 if need to be before I can get a really good contraction. That is the goal. I want a really nice contraction. Okay, this is the contraction I want you to see. She's getting a really good contraction. She's at 25%. I could actually, if I had a longer treatment time, I may put her down for 400, but right now I'm not going to. But that's something you can do with your clients. You want to give them a challenge, and anything that they can tolerate, you know, that's why communication with your client is important. That way you know. And if there's any problem with a pad, you can very much easily just move it ever so slightly when the contraction status is off. And it's just a little maneuver can just solve any little problem if it's bothersome to the client. Now the session is over, so the clock automatically stops. So I hit this stop button, which is now going to be green, so it is stopped. And then I turn off all the channels, totally off. You don't see any light, it's off. And now we can remove the pads. Undo the straps. And disconnect from the cable. Do not put your pads, just take them off and put them off to the side, and they're on top of each other. You want to disconnect each pad and place them and put them away. And that is how you take the pads and remove them after the treatment. Okay, now I'm going to show you the advanced protocol for the abdomen, and this is great for someone who's athletic or that works out. So I'm going to be using the adhesive pads. I already showed you with the microfiber reusable pads. These are great for someone who signs up for a series. It can be used the whole time for their series of treatments. And it's important that they don't have lotions and creams on because it does help with the pad care of the pad. Actually, they last longer. So this hookup, I'm going to have a crisscross, negative on top, and the positive on the lower. So it's crisscrossing. And this is going to be your channel 1. So remember, it's always important to remember where your channels are. Like I mentioned before, for you know if there's any area that needs to be adjusted, you know right where to go. So this is channel 2. Now the obliques, I'll be doing, it's going to go up and down. It's not going to be no crisscross for the obliques. And this will be channel 3. Channel 4. Now I am going to use, I am going to place more pads on her, and basically for Jennifer, she's kind of a smaller and doesn't need all these pad placement. For someone who is larger, you may want to add more to this, so I'm going to bring this to be channel 5. And we're doing up and down. This gives a more challenging workout. Channel 6. And that's how this abdominal protocol is hooked up. I'm not going to actually do a treatment on this because you already know I showed you how to operate the machine. So I'm just going to show you how to hook this protocol up. So this protocol is a more challenging workout because you're squeezing everything towards the middle of the abdomen. It's getting a nice squeeze. I'm not going to actually turn on the machine because I already told you how to operate the machine. But I will let you know how you're going to take off the pads after the treatment. So that plastic thing that comes on, you want to save that because to remove the pads, you're going to put them back on there because you don't want to be pulling down on the cable on the skin trying to remove it. And you just want to hold it down and pull it off. And that ends that protocol. Now we're ready to go on to the next advanced abdominal protocol. Okay, this next protocol is called the abdominal core workout. And for this, everything is going to be a front to back. All the positive will be in the front, the negative in the back. So you're going to get a squeeze this way. And on Jennifer, I'm only going to use channels 1 through 8. And larger clients, you may have to cross over to channels 9 through 16. But it's important, if you do that in the same muscle group, that you keep the same frequency. So I'm going to place the positive in the right upper quad. And the negative in the left lower back. This gives us a crisscross hookup as well. It's an intense workup. Out. And now I'm on channel 2. It's again important to remember where your channels are being placed. So her left upper quad. No, let's go this way. And her right lower back. Okay. Channel 3 will be her right lower quad. And her upper left back. And channel 4, her left lower quad. And her upper back. It's always important as well to make sure that your pads do not touch each other, so they're all separated and have a nice, further away from each other and not touching each other. Now we do the obliques. So channel 5. Be your right side obliques. And this is not crisscrossing, it's just going up and down now. So the negative goes up and the positive goes below. So you have the positive going towards the negative. And we'll do the other side of the obliques as well. So that would be your channel 6. Negative on top. Again, positive below. So in this protocol, she's going to get a nice squeeze. Everything's going to go towards the back. And she'll also be working on her obliques. So that is the abdominal core protocol. Cut. Okay, this abdominal protocol is for your larger overweight client, sedentary lifestyle. And what I did is I'm going to show you the channel 1. Here it's going to be a crisscross, so you have your negative, positive. Channel 2, same thing on the other side, negative, positive. So you're going to get a squeeze this way. This is channel 3, negative, positive, squeezes up this way. Channel 4, negative, positive, this way, squeezes up. Then you have channel 5, you have your negative, positive, which is squeezing up. Channel 6, negative, positive, squeezes up as well. So you're having a lot of stuff going on here which helps with the overweight client. And as you notice that I use channels 1 through 8, and it's good to stay on that same muscle group unless they're larger and you need more pads. Then again, you can use channels 9 through 16, but you have to make sure the frequency is the same from channels 1 through 8 and 9 through 16 if you want to do that. And this ends this particular protocol.
Perfect. Awesome.
Okay, this next protocol is a basic butt, hips, and inner thighs. And for this hookup, it's, like I said, it's basic, so I'm going to do channel 1, it's going to have negative, positive. Channel 2, negative, positive. Channel 3, negative, positive. Channel 4, negative, positive. Channel 5, this is on your hip, negative, positive. And again, channel 6, negative, positive. Now the inner thighs, we're going to have negative, positive. So you're treating the inner thighs, so you want the positive in the inner thigh because the positive always pulls towards the negative. So you get that squeeze like this. And the basic is just going to pull her butt up this way and also her hips. So I'm going to actually show you. We're going to start and do this session, this treatment. And I also want to mention, though, that one muscle group, her butt, I'm using channels 1 through 8, and her hips as well through 1 through 8. But when we're doing the inner thighs, I'm going to go over to the next channel group 9 through 16, because the inner thighs are going to probably use a different frequency than the butt, because the inner thighs can be a sensitive muscular group. Okay, now I'm going to start the session. Turn the machine on. I have the frequency set at 1,000. That's how deep it goes in the muscle. I have the frequency set on channel 1 through 8 and 9 through 16 because I am using two muscle groups. I'm using for the butt and for the inner thighs. So it's two different muscle groups. So I'm going to start with 5% after I turn them on to 0. It's always important to turn the machine on so they're all 0 before you actually initially turn it up. Then I'm going to start at 5% increments. Go up to 10. Remember, communication with the client is important. I'm bringing her up another 5, so she'll be at 15%. And that will be for the butt, hips, and the inner thighs. I am going to change the frequency, so I'm going to bring it down to 600 on, I'm going to start with the buttocks and the hip channels. And remember, the contraction status has to be off before you do that. At this point, I would go ahead and turn up to another 5%. Our main goal is to get a really good contraction. Right now we can see we can get a little contraction. And I'm thinking I'm going to turn the frequency as well on channels 9 through 16 with the inner thighs. I'm going to turn it also to a frequency of 600. Remember, it's always off like I did. You can do another 5% increments on the buttocks. And the inner thighs as well. She's getting a little contraction here. So we're going to challenge them. She can get, we want a really good contraction. So I'm going to turn her up another 5%. She's getting a much better contraction starting now. And again, it's always important to communicate with your client. We give her another 5% on the buttocks. Much better. You can see the squeeze now. This is important. This is what you want. You want to see the squeeze. That's really working that muscle. Okay, I got the desired contraction. I am going to stop this session now, but you can increase the intensity to as much as your client can tolerate. You can decrease the frequency as well, as long as your client can tolerate, but you cannot go below 400 with the adhesive pads. It is not recommended. So I'm going to end this protocol and go on to the next. This particular protocol is an advanced butt, hip, and outer thigh. The placements of this protocol is channel 1, you have negative, positive, channel 2, negative, positive, channel 3, negative, positive, channel 4, negative, positive, channel 5 on the hip, negative and positive, and on the other side of the hip, negative and positive. So this particular protocol on the butt and hip area, you're going to get that squeeze that goes in this way, and the squeeze that goes up into the middle of the butt. And the hips will just go up, just like the other protocol, up. The difference between the thighs, we're doing the outer thigh. So now I have the negative in the inner thigh and the positive in the outer thigh, because positive always pulls towards the negative. So you're going to get that squeeze on the outer thigh. Okay, so this is the end of this protocol. Okay, this protocol strengthens the back, the butt, and the hamstrings. So channel 1 is negative, positive. Channel 2, negative, positive. Channel 3, negative, positive. Channel 4, negative, positive. Channel 5, negative, positive. Channel 6, negative, positive. Channel 7, negative, positive. And channel 8, negative, positive. So we're using 8 channels, and we can use this all in one muscle group. And what you're going to get a nice squeeze going in towards the butt, a nice pull up on the hamstrings, and a nice pull up onto the back. And that completes this protocol. This particular protocol is for the biceps. The bicep hookup is the positive on the bicep area and the negative is on the tricep area. So when you use the biceps, it is a smaller muscle group, so your frequency is going to be 1,000 to 600. Generally, you don't go much lower on the frequency for that. You can, but in most cases you don't. If you're hooking up the abdomen with the biceps, you would be using channels 1 through 8 for the abdomen, and this way you can control the frequency for the abs, and you use the arm hookup, the biceps, 9 through 16, and then you can control the frequency as well for just the arm hookup. And that ends this protocol. Okay, this next protocol is for the quadriceps. Use channel 1 and 2. Channel 1 is negative, positive, and on the other side, channel 2, negative, positive. So you're going to get a squeeze upward because positive always goes towards the negative. And if you want, again, if you want to add the abdominals to this workout, you may, or if you want to even do the hip area, you are able to do as well. And you can use that with the same channels. And that ends this protocol. I just want to say again the importance of the microfiber pads. When you go down in frequency, you can go all the way to 200 with these pads. But if you're using the adhesive pads, you can only go down to 400. They're very intense, so it's not recommended, and we do not recommend going below 400 with these pads. 400 on these pads equals 200 on these pads. Okay, now we're going to show the protocols for the face system of the SX-4500. So when we start with the face on the machine, this is micro, so that's the body. We have to hit this, and it's nano, and now the face machine part is ready to be operated. What I'll be using the Pico probes to do the treatment. The best probes to use for sculpting. And I'm actually going to start out with 7 programs to this. And the 7 programs, you use 4 different movements with these programs: glide, cinch, erase, and hold. Now each program that I start, I will let you know what is the best maneuvers to use with each program. So to do the face, we actually need conducting gel. So what I like to do is take conducting gel. I personally use a bowl of some kind. Put the gel in. And when I use to put the gel on the face, I like to use like a little fan brush. I like to use anything cotton because it absorbs gel. So we're going to be doing one side of the face at this time. You just want to go there and put the gel on the neck. Sorry. And you want to apply enough that you're going to get a nice, be able to maneuver the probes on the face. Okay, the first program, like I told you, there were 7 programs. The first one is oxygen, and oxygen increases the oxygen and circulation to the tissues. It actually helps prep for the other programs. And we are using the probes, and we're going to use the black probe will be on the top, the red probe on the bottom. And now we're going to do the glide movement that I talked about. So the glide movement is very easy. It just glides up and over the face. Now, to mention, I do have it set at 4%. Oxygen is 3 to 5%. In this particular program, they generally don't feel anything in this program. If they do, it's ever so mild, and it's not that many people that do. That's all normal. And I like to focus on the oxygen for about 2 minutes. With the oxygen, they will get a little pinkish. Some get a little reddish, and it does go away. It just is the circulation and the oxygenation happening into the skin. So you can see I'm just gliding. I get right down into the neck. Try to cover all the areas of this half of the face. And it's important that you do not touch the probes with each other because they will cancel each other out, and then you wouldn't be getting a treatment. And I like to use as much probe on the face. You notice I'm not going like this. I'm really taking advantage of all the probe to be placed on the face during the treatment. For the oxygen program, you want to start out at 3%. You can go up to 5%, but it is how your client is tolerating it. And oxygen program should last about 2 minutes. And that's the end of the oxygen protocol. The next program is Nano. It's for fine lines and wrinkles. So just turn this to Nano. And our settings are generally 15 to 35%, but for someone that's starting out with you, you may want to just go a little lower, maybe 13% or 12%, because everyone has a different sensitivity. And when I say that, there is a feeling of vibration or like a tingling effect around the mouth, and some people actually get it up on the temporal part of the forehead. So I'm going to start her out at 12%. You can add gel as need to be, or you can even use some spray as a re-wetting or ionic spray. Now, like I mentioned earlier, there is 3 different movements now with this program, and one is glide, the other one's cinch, and the other one's erase. So starting out with the gliding, just like I was doing the oxygen gliding. Here's a nice cinch move. Just get right up there and lift, and then you can move onto the neck and work the neck. So you're always using both probes doing something. As long as you make sure that both probes are always on the skin. And of course, not to try to touch the probes with each other, because then you won't get an effective treatment. Nice erase, great for underneath the eye. And you can get right up there underneath the eye. As you're doing, you can be lifting the eye and then just doing a little erase. This helps with them fine lines and wrinkles underneath the eye.
Can't see why.
Now this program, I would say you could go 3 to 5 minutes. And you can go right over the lips. Great for fine lines and wrinkles around the lips. It actually helps plump the lips as well. Just afraid to get right in there, and you can see how I'm bringing that up. And it's, be a little aggressive. Don't be afraid to put some pressure. Great move for the eyebrow lift. So you can increase as long as your client can tolerate. So that would be the end of that particular program. Okay, the next program is Pico. Let's just change it to Pico. And Pico is for fine lines and wrinkles. It's a powerful program. It works really great, and I would recommend 5 to 7 minutes with this program. And the movements are the same as Nano. And generally, if someone's okay with the percentage, the level, I should say, of Nano, they usually go for Pico. So again, it's your client's tolerance. And again, this is glide and cinch. Is that right? Again, when you start out on Pico, you can start out at 15. Or generally you could start on the lower side and do 12%. And the higher end would be 35% on this, on Nano, Pico, and Tone. The percentage rates are 15 to 35. But again, if someone has more sensitivity, you can start them on the lower end around 12%. This is kind of like a cinch and glide together. As you can see, I'm lifting here. Okay, for the neck area, just like to get up and underneath, and you can actually get in there and hold. Okay, it's actually like cinching the red probe towards the black probe. Get underneath the eyes for them fine lines and wrinkles using the erase maneuver. It's great for an eye lift. Even you can do the nose. This treatment is excellent to minimize pores as well. Getting under there, lifting, holding, and cinch towards the left probe. The red is cinching towards the black probe. Again, you can cinch this up and actually do the lips. Plumps the lips, and again gets rid of the refined lines and wrinkles, as well around the lip area. So notice how much probe I'm using on the face, and I'm keeping it always in contact with the skin. It's great for the nasolabial folds. This does a nice sculpting, smooth. Lifting the eye area, great for the lift of the eye. People with crow's feet, get that lift there, and get right in there, and helps with those lines that we get with the crow's feet. And that's the end of the PICO program. Okay, the next program is tone, so let's move this on to tone. Again, tone is generally 15 to 35%. You can start at a lower level to 12% and bring it up as they tolerate it. The same feeling with tone, you can have that vibrating, tingling around the mouth and up into the forehead area. Tone is our toning program. It tightens, it tones the skin. It actually goes deeper into the skin, subdural. So if they have the sensitivity feeling, what I just discussed about a tingling feeling or a vibrating feeling, it could be a little more sensitive in that area. Go ahead, try a communication with your client. Would let you know if you have to decrease the level or you're fine to stay as you are, or actually even increase it. So the same moves again are glide, cinch, and erase with this particular program. Get right underneath that chin. Okay, also on nano, pico, and tone, you want to watch the impedance meter because that tells you that the treatment is efficient and it's penetrating the skin. Okay, if you look at the impedance meter now with me off the skin, you see it at 12. Now once I put the probes onto the skin, you see it dropping. And the drop can be up to 1 to 5. And that's just telling us that the treatment she's receiving is consistent and it's penetrating into the skin. And the impedance meter is effective on nano, pico, and tone. So you can see that probes don't always have to be side by side from each other to be effective, as long as both probes are on the skin at all times. You're getting a treatment. Same movements, good for the eyes as well. So this is a cinch, bringing the red probe towards the black probe. And that ends the tone program. Okay, the next protocol I'm going to be doing is derma build. Derma build starts at 50 to 75 generally, but you can start lower end at 40% and see how your client tolerates it. The feel of the derma build, they will see flashes of light. Flashes of light is the optic nerve recognizing that program, and they also can have a taste of metal, and it's their taste buds recognizing that program. This is all normal and it's not harmful at all. The movement for this is cinch and hold. Yeah, she's gonna have to do more. Cinch. And I like to hold for 4 seconds, and you can hear those clicks on the machine, and I hold for 4. This is lifting the neck area. People who get, per se, turkey necks, any sagginess underneath the chin. This helps with the nasolabial folds. It's actually great to put on the lips because it plumps those lips. In the eye area. A nice lift to the eye. And this program would go for 3 to 5 minutes before you would go to the next program. So go cinch and a hold for 4 seconds. Again, I'm going over the nasolabial folds. And if the gel seems to dry, we do have this ionic spray that you can just spray. Just light the mist on you. You're okay. And that way you don't have to reapply the gel. It just helps to re-wet the gel. You can see it gives a nice glide. Lifting the neck. Right here on the chin. Another good move is, it gives a nice sculpting effect and lifting on the side of the face. The eyes. This is the end of the derma build. Now we're moving to the next program, derma lift. This is the most powerful lifting program. The movements are the same, cinch and hold. And it goes deep into the muscle, so it's a very powerful program. So this is like lifting the neck area. Under the chin. See below the chin. Nasolabial folds. Very powerful. Great for eye lifting. Okay, for the neck lift. Underneath the chin, where again the turkey necks, loose skin underneath the chin. Over the chin as well. Nasolabial folds. And great for the lips, plumping. By the eye area. Give that eye lift. Remember, don't forget into the nose area because we do get the droopiness from there as well. This is the most powerful lifting program, so you're going to want to spend your most time on this program. That ends the derma lift. Now I'm going to change out the probes for the single probes for the next program. The next program is ion electromagnetic transderm administration. It's ion toprophonesis. In other words, penetrating of the product. So I'm using the single probes. Take these out. And now we put in our single probes. And this program is 25 to 50%, and we always go on the lower end, and we can always work the way up on the client's tolerance. For the single probes, we only have to worry about adjusting channel 1 because now we're in single probe. So it's only the pico probes that you have to worry about channel 1 and channel 2 to be the same. So for this program, my client is going to be holding the negative, the black probe, in her hand like this. And then I'm going to be using the positive on her face. And this motion can be in 2 different ways. So this program penetrates product into the skin. So you can do it this way. Or you can actually use it on the tips as well. This way you can get into them finer areas than using the whole probe. So you can use it both ways. It's effective. Okay, now if we were to do the opposite side of the face, she would be taking the black probe and holding this in her right hand, and I would be coming over to her left side and doing the same movements that I did on the right side of the face. And everything I did from oxygen to ion, you would do the same movements on both sides of the face. And that is the end of the ion program. Okay, the next protocol I'm going to use is the gloves. The gloves are just used for channel 1. These are FDA approved gloves. Very nice way to finish the treatment, the way I like to finish the treatment. It gives a treatment all over the face with the gloves, plus you get a nice radiance with it as well. So first you need, for you don't get a treatment, you want to put the inserts on your hands. But before I do that, I already wet the gloves with water underneath the sink. I wet them, so they're not dripping wet, obviously. And then take the spray, the ionic spray, and you're going to spray the gloves. And I like to just get a nice, about, 15 squirts or so. So the water is acting as conducting as well. Then you're putting on the ionic spray. Now we can put our inserts on. This way I won't get a treatment and my client will get the full treatment. Now on the gloves it doesn't matter which one's positive, which one's negative, which one where it goes. I'm actually going to do both sides of the face and one side of the face with the treatment. And for the gloves, I just start at like 35%. Pico, tone, and build are great with the gloves, so we're going to go with Pico. Okay, we're ready to start. What I want to do is to get under there in the neck. Come over here. Get right in the décolleté as well. You can get right in there. You know, we get the crepiness on our décolleté, our neck. You can get in there, right in the pore area where it's always a problem area. When we get enlarged pores, it helps minimize the pores. On one side of the face. It's a nice added touch at the end of a treatment. And you can even get closer to the eyes like this to get down in there. Because it's with the gloves, you have more areas that you can cover with them. And hold. And you can use the gloves on actually tone is a good one, and build. To build, just to show you. Tone would be the same movements. Build is your lifting. Or I actually have on derma lift as well. You can use it on. Just get in there and hold. Make sure the gloves do not touch either while you're doing the treatment, because it will cancel each other out and you won't get an effective treatment. Under the eyes. It's great for those refined lines and wrinkles. And you get a nice radiant glow. It brightens the skin. For derma build and derma lift, you will still have that sensation of taste of metal and flashes of light with the gloves. May not be as intense as the probes, but will still be there. You can use your fingers or you can use your whole hand. Actually, for the glove treatment, you can even charge extra as your service. It's an added treatment. When you use the whole hand on derma build and lift, you can get a sense of vertigo. You can use just the fingertips or the fingers and not use the whole hand to avoid that. And on the forehead as well, you can get that sense in the temporal area, a sense of vertigo. So you can just turn the power down. That is how you incorporate the gloves in your treatment. Now I would also like to show you the glove treatment on your client. So I actually wet these gloves. She has no inserts in, and I sprayed her hands with the conducting spray. So now the only thing I need to do is if I'm doing her face, she can get a hand treatment as well. And it doesn't matter which one's red or which one's black on the hands. This is on channel 1, just like I did her treatment with her face. And now she can incorporate having a hand treatment. If I'm doing a face treatment with her hand, sometimes you have to adjust the levels because now we're doing shared treatment. So you can turn up the percentage to the client's tolerance. And that's how you would go about giving a hand treatment to your client. Another treatment to incorporate would be using the face or neck pads. What this is going to do is help with the problem areas of the skin. So say we're going to do the neck, you would put the negative on top and then bring the positive below that. And this will help treat the neck. And if you want to do the probes while the neck is being treated, you get two things done. You can have the problem areas being worked on while you're working the rest of the face. Or you can also do, maybe it's this problem area that she has. They can have those even fine lines and wrinkles into the cheek area. It's just a problem area that you can help. You could also just do one side of the face with the patches and then do the probes on the other side of the face while this side is being treated. So I would say maybe you want to do an eye. You could put one here. Let me just step a little further. Negative is always on top. And that would help with this eye area. Or you could also do both sides of the face with the patches and not use the probes. But I think it's a great way. The problem areas get more treatment while you're doing the probes as well. Okay, so here's the extra cable that we can put into channel 2. This is a quad cable. That's how I got to use this. One cable in channel 1 has 4 placements to put these pads. And if I wanted to, I could go ahead and do this on the other side like I did this and just give the treatment with the face pads. Or like I said, you could just do one side and use the pico probes and have the treatment. So these are options that you can consider while you're doing your treatments. So you can also use these face pads and do a brow lift by putting the negative above the brow line and the positive below, and it will treat that area and it'll give a nice brow lift. And you could be using the pico probes around this area in the jawline to do more treatment of the face. So there's options to do, and problem areas can get more treated with the face pads. Okay, for the pad treatment, facial pad treatments, you can use any program at all, but the DermaLift is the best effective program for this treatment. And that would be the end of the pad placement. Okay, I just wanted to offer you a couple of tips on when use of pico probes on the programs Nano, Pico, and Tone. When you get that like a vibrating, tingling feeling around the mouth or up in the forehead, there's several ways you can get around that as well. Some people are just a little ultra sensitive. So one way would be obviously turning down both channel 1 and channel 2. Or you could just do one of the probes, turn down the red probe and leaving the black probe at the percentage. So if you're at 15%, you could leave the black probe on 15 and you could turn the red probe down to 13%. Or you could also leave it at the same percentage, and when you're around those sensitive areas, being down on the red probe or the area you're going around, you can just use it as a single probe there. And they won't have that sensitivity as well on the areas they're having sensitivity as, or even up in this area. So there is ways to get around that. It's either turning down both channels, turning down one of the channels, or using the one you're going around with the sensitivity with the dot down into a single probe. And then were some tips to get around the sensitivity areas on those programs. Okay, with the single probes, I just want to offer a few tips. You can use that people like to generally use with this. If it's your decision whether you want to use the pico probes or the single probes, but they work great around the mouth area. And also around the eye area. It's just the rounded probe, and they just glide around that eye area. You can also, these unscrew, and you can, if you want the black one to have the larger barrel on, that's fine, and you can switch the negative to the positive, whichever. They're interchangeable, however you feel like you want to use that. But this is a nice other way to get around the lips, the mouth, and the eye area. So some other options for you. And that is some of the tips I had for the single channel probes. So this ends the protocols for the SX-4500. Thank you very much. I thank my model, Jennifer. And if you have any questions, you can give me a call, or you can please look at the reference manual book as well. It has a lot of the different protocols for the hookups and for facial movements. Thank you.